Good evening, everyone. I'm just trying to share my screen with all of you. And also, check my YouTube so that I can see your comments. Okay, I can see all of you now, and I can see, as in I can see all your comments. Excellent. So I'm going to share my screen. And I think all of you can see my screen. So most of this that I'm going to share with you here as theory on degree of truth and falsity, I think some of you have done it in my class. So just to do it better, I'm going to share also a worksheet today so that I know all of you can apply what we have just discussed, right? So let's understand this question type known as degree of truth and falsity. This question type has been a favorite question in the AILET exams, right? Every alternate years, we have seen this question feature in the AILET exam, and every alternate year we have seen, this type of question feature in, varying degrees of difficulty. Sometimes it is simple, sometimes it has been tough. So one has to take this question type bang on. Now, please understand that degree of truth and falsity is a question which is purely reading and reading based and reasoning based. You have to be able to read well. You have to be able to decide what can be inferred or cannot be inferred from what you are reading. Therefore, understanding is the biggest challenge here. In fact, it is the only challenge. I should not say biggest, I should say only challenge. Because here, not just reading, you also have to use your inference skills. That means from what you read, you have to be confident. Is it something that I can infer directly or not? Is it something that I can understand from here? Is it something that the author is trying to tell me or not trying to tell me? Once you have read the given paragraph, you need to decide the statements and their nature. So what has to be decided and what is the nature of questions? Let's move on to that. So this is what is the final option type that you are going to get. You do not get 5 type of options. You get 4 from this list. So your decision has to be whether this option is definitely true or definitely false. Between truth, you also have a choice of definitely and probably true. Then there is a type which cannot, where you have to read the statement and maybe, neither can you say it is true or false. So there is a cannot be determined as well here. So these are some of the options that you could get. cannot be determined, definitely true and definitely false, probably true, probably false. So between these, you get any four options. Sometimes you get a definitely false, sometimes you get a probably false, or maybe sometimes cannot be determined is omitted. So this is the choice that you have to make. So first we have to understand what is the difference between definitely and probably true, or definitely and probably false. So let's go to that. So maybe some of you would like to note this down. A statement is known as definitely true when it is written somewhere in the passage and you can read it. Now, just written is sometimes not the only determinant of whether a statement is definitely true or not. A statement can be definitely true also when it is representing the central idea of the passage, which means that it's not somewhere that you can pinpoint in the passage. It's not as if it's directly written, but it is what the author is trying to tell us. So if we go back to what I was telling you in the beginning, that it is a pure reading and reasoning based exercise, this is what I meant. That a choice of definitely true can determine if something is given, yes, but also when it is not really written, but I can find out or I can deduce it from reading the passage that this is a direct message given by the author. So it's not written as such, but it depicts the central idea of the passage or what the author is trying to tell me. It cannot just be the central idea. It could be the main conclusion also of the passage or the author, right? Maybe it's something, it's the central idea of the last paragraph, or it's the central idea of, where the author is giving us the conclusion. Also, it could be a statement that is an inference that you can draw from another statement in the passage. That means it's not the central idea, it's not the conclusion, but it is a statement that I can infer from another statement. I will give you an example of this. Or it could also be an only inference that you can draw, or a necessary inference. So one of the inferences, necessary inferences, means that it could be an assumption of one of the author in the passage. So an assumption made by the author in drawing his or her central theme. So an assumption statement or an inference statement, conclusion, central idea, all these represent definitely true statements after a given passage in this question type. So just note this down and tell me if there is any doubt so far. So when I'm looking down is when I'm just trying to see comments from my phone, because I'm not present in the studio today. Okay, so I can see a lot of good evenings. I'm just waiting to see if there are any questions from here. If there are no questions, then please give me a go ahead signal. Yes, so are you giving me a go ahead signal? Great. So I love this slide, which is definitely false slide, because it says it's the opposite of everything that I've told you on the previous slide. So that means it's very simple to do a definitely true or a definitely false, because if something is opposite to what is written in the passage, it's definitely false. If a statement given is opposing the central idea of the passage, it's definitely false. If it is opposing the main conclusion of the passage, it's definitely false. If it is opposing a necessary inference, what was the necessary inference that I told you about? Assumption. So if it's opposing the assumption, then it's definitely false. And anything opposite to this would make it a definitely false answer. Then we come to the probably true and probably false options. And here lies the crux of our discussion for today. Now, if I were to take up the next three options, which is probably true, probably false, and cannot be determined, then I would have to take you through the differences between probability and possibility. This difference is very, very significant for you to understand, because this is where our two types of reasonings diversify. So I have taken an example from here. This is deductive logic. And to bring in deductive logic in this question type was necessary for you to know what is the difference between probably true, probably false, and cannot be determined. Now, when I look at deductive logic, if you just see this example that I have given to you, it says that some A's are B's, some B's are C's, therefore some A's are C's. Can you see the statements, everyone? Say yes if you do. Now, if you take this as the passage, these three statements, can you take this as the passage? Some A's are B's, some B's are C's, and therefore some A's are C's. If this were my passage. Now, based on this, I have given you a degree of truth and falsity questionnaire, and I have written statement one is some B's are A's. What can you say about some B's are A's based on the passage? Tell me quickly, what can you say about some B's are A's based on the passage? Is it definitely true, probably true? Yes. So I'm getting some answers from Nipun and Himank and Shwecha, Mudit. Yes. So this is definitely true. So let's write down definitely true here. What about no B's are A's? What about no B's are A's? Based on the passage, what can you say about the statement no B's are A's? Yes. Again, I'm getting some answers, which are correct answers. This is definitely false. If some A's are B's, then some B's are A's has to be definitely true. Therefore, no B's are A's is definitely false. So in deductive logic, if something is opposing the statements, it's definitely false. If something is not opposing it, it's definitely true. It's very simple. Now let's come to the conclusion, some A's are C's. What can you say about this conclusion, some A's are C's? And herein lies the catch. This is where the rubber meets the road. Can someone tell me the meaning of the idiom where the rubber meets the road? Along with this statement answer, can you tell me the meaning of what is the meaning of where the rubber meets the road? Yes. So every time I'm looking away is when I'm looking at your comments. I can get the answers, but I'm not able to get the meaning of the idiom from your comment statement. Very good, Himang. Yes, I've got one answer from Himang. That is testing of an idea, which is correct. Where the rubber meets the road is where the actual test is. So the actual test is here. So many of you are saying that it is probably true, and some of you are saying that it is uncertain. Right? This is what I'm getting as answers from you all. So tell me, would you call it probably true or probably false? And would you be able to decide whether it's probably true or probably false here? Some A's are C's. Now, some of you have told me that the answer for this is probably true, and others have told me that the answer for this is uncertain. What about a scenario of probably false? Would you also say that it's probably false? So those of you who are saying it's probably true, do you think it's also probably false? And if it is not probably false, then why not? What is the probability of A being C's? What is the probability of A being C? Yes, tell me. What is the probability of A being C? I'm waiting for some answers to come in. The probability of A being C is, can I say, is 50%? Yes, yes, Nimisha and Pranya Srivastav, that's correct, it's 50%. So that means it is as true as it is false. If the probability is 50%, that means it is as true as it is false. So in deductive logic, probably true so I'm writing it in short, probably true is the same as probably false, which is the same as uncertain. Would you all agree? Because there is no way to differentiate between probably true and probably false in deductive logic. Because when you think of deductive logic, these two options are trick options because anything is as probably true as it is probably false. And therefore, this answer is uncertain. That is why in deductive logic, we do not have options like probably true or probably false as separate from each other. We have one option which is invalid. I'm sure all of you have used this option in deductive logic questions in your class sheets and your mocks. So, you know, when I was a student, I always felt in this question type, like I didn't have to prepare this question type for my exams. But later on, much later on, when I was thinking about such a question type as degree of truth and falsity, you know, I felt, well, what's the need to give probably true as separate from probably false? Because if something is probably true, it will be probably false as well. But that was because I was thinking about deductive logic when approaching this question type. And that's when it dawned upon me that when it comes to deductive logic, these two options should not be given together because they are meaningless. And hence, in deductive logic, we have validity and invalidity. But when it comes to inductive logic, which is reading based logic, then probably true and probably false are different things. Unless, of course, in inductive logic also there is a situation that you cannot decide how true or false this thing is. It could be as true as it is false. So where the possibility and probability both are 50% for something to happen, which is the case in point here, some A's are C's. The probability and possibility both align. Both align means it's 50% chance that it will be A's will be C's and 50% chance that they won't be C's. Then probably true and probably false are meaningless because we cannot decide. But in inductive logic, when you are reading a portion, then from what you read, sometimes a statement that is given has a higher chance of being true versus its opposite. So let's take that example from inductive reasoning. So let's read this. If I were to give you facts about a 28-year-old person who eats healthy, who exercises, and then I were to say, what are the chances that such a person will die of a heart condition tomorrow? You know, you will tell me possibility is definitely there. But from what we have read, given the age and the physical activity and the diet, it appears that there is higher chance of this not happening than happening. Would you agree? Right? Would you agree? Hi, welcome Aditya. I'm very happy that you were able to join my class today. So now take a scenario in your day-to-day life, and look at this question type. Isn't this a question type that we practice daily around us, where we see our chances, where we see facts that are before us, and then we make certain decisions for the future? You probably are doing it for your mock scores. You have your mock scores in front of you, and you have a few days left before your exams. So you are calculating what are your chances at this exam, given the fact that this is your mock performance. And now you try to make your timetable for the last few days. You adjust things that you're going to study now or GK that you're going to take up, and then you make your calculations. Based on these calculations, you look at the probability of your success in this paper. You apply for backups. You fill other forms. So what are you basically doing? You are calculating the probability of a certain decision that will impact your future. Right? So this question type is all prevalent around us. The only difference is that those decisions which you're looking at, in your day-to-day life, now you just have to base them on a passage that you will be given. So from what you read, if the chances of the statement being true are higher, more than 50%, then your answer will be probably true. But if the chances of the statement being true are less than 50%, then your answer will be probably false. That means in inductive reasoning, unlike deductive reasoning, there is a method that a possibility is there, but a probability is lower. Or a possibility is definitely there in all the cases, and the probability is higher. So possibility for anything to happen is usually 50%. If you flip a coin in the air, its possibility is also 50, probability is also 50 as to whether you will get heads or tails. You know the gambler's fallacy, where the gambler assumes that just because the gambler has won the last 2 rounds, his chances of winning the 3rd round are higher. Do you know this gambler's fallacy? Do the chances of winning increase if the person is winning prior to the next chance? the chances of winning for a gambler will always be 50%, both possibility and probability. But when a gambler is on a winning streak, the impulse to continue to play, thinking, okay, now my chances of winning are increasing, is an incorrect conclusion and assumption, isn't it? But in such a scenario that I have given before you, like a doctor, would a doctor operate on a 28-year-old person? Yes. Because a doctor will calculate the probability of success based on facts in front of the doctor, which is age, diet, exercise, probably other blood works, no other underlying condition, chances of recovery, right? So here, possibility of something going bad is always going to be 50%, but the probability of it's going bad will be higher or lower based on the facts in front of you. So that is why these two options, probably true and probably false, exist. What you read before you, purely on what you read, nothing else, you have to decide whether a given statement has a higher chance of being true or a lower chance of being true. If it has a higher chance of being true, then you mark it as probably true. If it has a lower chance of being true, then you mark it as probably false. But in a scenario where you cannot calculate this, there you mark uncertain or cannot be determined. Right, everyone? Now, this is, of course, fine. You have been able to understand this. But I will already forewarn you that I do not see you people making a mistake in deciding between false and truth, unless you are making very big reading errors, which I'm hoping you are not going to make, because you have probably written almost, 50, 60, 80 mocks with us or more. But what I do foresee that mistakes that you could make would be deciding between definitely true and probably true. Why do I see that happening? Because sometimes for you, it will be difficult to process or to be very confident. Is this something that is, that I can be 100% sure that the author is trying to tell me? Or is it something that I should not be 100% sure that the author is trying to tell me? So definitely and probably true, the difference is that anything less than 100% would be probably true. And something which is definitely true would be 100% true, just as is the case with some B's are A's. If some A's are B's, there's no doubt in hell that some B's are A's. So what I foresee that the errors that you could make or the difficulty that you would face would be sometimes in the decision between definitely true and probably true. This decision, whether I should consider it as a central theme thing, or whether I should consider it as a scenario where it's a definitely true inference, or I should only consider it as something which is true but not 100% true. Right? So this is one place where I see most of you could struggle. Otherwise, a decision of cannot be determined should not be a tough one. And definitely a choice between truth and falsity will not be something that bothers you. It will bother you if there is a reading error. So do you think you are in a, do you think you are ready to try some sheets out based on this? So let's note this, what we just discussed for probably true and probably false. From the given facts, if something can be anticipated or inferred, then it comes under the probability zone. Where the probability is higher than 50%, the statement is probably true. And where the probability is lower than 50%, the statement is probably false. And where we need more facts than are given, the statement will be cannot be determined. So let's note this down, and then I'm going to share the question paper with you. So we'll do a quick solving of a few passages. right? So just note this down. Okay, so can I share the question paper with you guys? One minute. So let me share the sheet. Office hours, degree of truth, right? So can you all read the sheet? I'm also trying to give you all a sheet link. So 1 minute, let me try and give you all a sheet link. Yes, can you all read? Have you got the sheet link in your chat box as well? Okay, 1 minute. Let me just get you the sheet link in the chat box. Uh, जितेंद्र, हेलो, हमें मत दो, यूट्यूब पे खुद ही डाल दो, हमें मत दो। डाल दिया है? ठीक है। Okay, sorry. So I think the sheet link is there in the chat box. Can you check now, please? Yeah, I can see it now on my chat box. I'll also share it. Okay, there are two passages. As you can see on my screen, followed by statements based on what you read. You have to mark the options that are given as definitely true, probably true, cannot be determined, and there is one option that is combined probably false and definitely false. So even if it's probably false, you mark D, and if it's definitely false, you mark D. Okay, start working. Once you have finished, give me a thumbs up in the chat box. Those who have just joined, go to the link in the chat box and start working on the sheet. Okay, so once you are done, will you give me a thumbs up or go ahead? So give me a thumbs up once you are done. I'll start discussion when I have almost 10 to 12 thumbs ups. Okay, I'm waiting for a couple of minutes more. I have some thumbs ups. Okay, so let's go over the questions on this worksheet, children. So were you able to understand this passage on WHO? You know, the author is trying to talk about a comparison of a report between the WHO and the the numbers on that report, the death numbers in the pandemic between January 20 to December 21, and the numbers that officially feature on the Indian death rate numbers, right? And the author takes into account how, it is not surprising that the two numbers differ by almost 3 times. The two numbers differ by almost 10 times. And the author takes into account why that could happen, the response of the Indian government, and then the method of calculation, right? So the passage was clear with all these things in it, and you also read the same things here, right? Now, it is not necessarily true or false what the author has to say about the two numbers, though it appears that the author is siding with the WHO numbers. Is that also something that you gauged from this passage? Say yes or no in the chat box based on whether you disagree or agree. Now, let's look at the first statement. The Indian death report between January 2020 and December 2021 is false. Would you say this? What would you say about this statement? What would you say about this statement? Would we choose an option A, B, C, or D here? All right, so I have some quick answers which are correct, Mudit and Shivani. So this would be probably true, is probably true B, children. Now, it's not as if the author has proven 100% that the WHO numbers are correct. The author is maintaining a stance that it's not necessary that the WHO numbers are incorrect. In fact, the author has shown a scenario in some states where the WHO numbers are almost correct based on calculations, right? So the chances of the death report given by India being false are higher than the chances of it being true, right? So the first answer is B, and it appears as if almost all of you got it correct. The only reason why the Indian death report for COVID is not accurate is the underreporting of COVID-19 deaths. What about statement 2? Now, in such a statement, there is a single word that has a chance of making this answer different. Which is that word? There is a word that has a chance of making this answer different, and that word is only. Do you see it? Because of this word, this answer changes from A or B to C. While it is given as the one of the reasons, we do not know whether it's the only reason or other reasons are also applicable here. Right? So that means words like only, all, none can impact your answers a lot, change them from a true or a false to cannot be determined. What about the third answer? The WHO was almost accurate in its reporting of excess deaths in the COVID-19 report. What about question number 3? The WHO estimate, so I think I can see it right here only. The WHO estimates for states were based on CRS registration data obtained by news organizations. For 2020, The excess deaths seemed close to 5.5 lakhs for 12 states. For most such states for which data were obtained matched the CRS 2020 calculations, which is 5.3 lakhs. Right? So, for some states, for the 2020 report, the WHO estimates were almost accurate. We do not know whether it was almost accurate for all the states. So again, the third answer would change to C. Had it said for some states for which CRS data was available and for the year 2020, then this answer would have been A, which is definitely true. Have you understood the third answer? Second cannot be probably false, Shivani, because it is true. Underreporting was one of the reasons, but we do not know whether it was the only reason. Have you understood the third one, everyone? Fourth, it is probable that there is an increase in registration levels even while there is a decrease in actual birth and death registration. So this information can be checked here for Uttar Pradesh. And it says that it is difficult to believe that in states such as UP, there has been an increase in registration levels, even while there is a decrease in actual. So this is directly opposite to what is given. Hence, the answer for the fourth one will be option D. Fourth, D. Have you all got D for the fourth one? Since we don't know it was the only reason or not, whenever we don't know, then the answer cannot be true or false. The answer has to be cannot be determined. Fifth one, the government of India has a better methodology to calculate the COVID-19 deaths than does the WHO. We know that the government of India has denied the numbers. It's given in the first paragraph towards the end, and has also, countered the methodology, but we do not know whether it itself has a better methodology of calculation. So again, my answer will become C. Low medical certification of deaths in India could be responsible for underreporting of deaths. This has been cited as a reason. If you check the end of the first paragraph, because registered deaths available from subnational units, there is a discrepancy for 2020 data, right? And also somewhere on the top, in India, where death registration after occurrence is not universal across states. Can you see it? And the certification of deaths is quite low in number. This is where it talks about registration of deaths. So this is completely true based on the passage, and hence the answer for this will be option A. Because this has been cited as one of the reasons for the discrepancy between the WHO report and the India report. So 1 to 6, can you see the answers? 1B, 2C, 3C, 4D, 5C, and 6A. In question 5, it cannot be B because just because India is trying to counter the methodology of WHO does not mean that the author thinks India is in a better position to calculate the deaths. Himang, that's response of India. That is not what the passage is trying to tell us. So we cannot say whether it's probably true or probably false. Yes, so we cannot say true or false because we have just been given India's response, but the author has not made it categorical whether India has a better method or WHO. We need more data to reach that conclusion. So 1 to 6, how many of you have got all correct? Is there anyone who has got all correct? One to six. Is there anyone who has all correct? Put down your scores. Okay, 5 on 6 is not bad. You keep practicing this question type and then you inch closer to, accuracy. Let's come to 7 to 12. And in this passage, I hope you are able to gauge what. Yes, so 5 on 6 is not bad. Let me congratulate you on 5 on 6. Okay, so I was just trying to look for something in the chat box, some nice emoji. It appears that I'm very bad with hunting down emojis. So 5 on 6, I can't find anything. So I'll just do cheers. Okay, this. So that's good, a good score. Let's come to 7 to 11, 12. So in this passage, I hope you were able to understand that the author is talking about hope. The author definitely is a psychotherapist and is trying to take us through his or her methodology in talking to people who feel a sense of hopelessness, depression, right? And the author is trying to put into perspective the role of hope, the future, the past, and the present in how we feel at a particular time or at a particular moment. Right? So, based on what we read, let's go to the first question. Hope is not needed in healing and growing. So, what is your answer to question number 7? I think right in the beginning, the author gives this answer. Hope is not needed in healing and growing. This is directly contradictory to what is written. Remember the definition we said, if something directly contradicts something which is written, it'll become definitely false. What about 8? There is both a sense of hopelessness and hope attached to hope. I think this can be found in the second paragraph of the passage. Right? So what do you think the answer for 8th is now? It is given, directly given from the passage, hence the answer will be A. That's very good. 9th, the process described in the passage is universal and objective. So if you look at the third paragraph, the author directly says, I would like to express these issues through Alex, a composite fictional patient, some of the experiences people bring to therapy. The clinical process I describe is influenced by my own approach and illustrations. So the process described is not universal and objective. It is basically the author's own. So the answer for 9th should be option D. Did some of you get D? Yes, Tanushri Agarwal got D. Khushi Srivastav also got D. Very nice. Talking up without pause or hesitation. Talking without pause or hesitation might be a way to hide pain. So here the author takes you to the last paragraph of a fictional patient, Alex, who comes in and starts talking without pause or hesitation. It's charming, but the author feels that the person is guarded, and these words could be an attempt to prevent a silent crack through which pain could filter. So this is not a question, this is a rhetorical question, and the chances are that the author is trying to hint at the fact that a very well poised person, when he or she comes to the author, they might be guarding their pain, right? So the answer for 10th is A. A person who is articulate can be very depressed most times. What can you say about 11th? Now, 11th is generalizing something that the author is hinting at. But what is the key word that could change your answer here? Yes, so 11th answer should be C. That's very good, Himang and Kushi and Nimisha. So what is the word that has actually changed our answer here? Just like only we circle another culprit of a word, which is most. So from such a generic passage, are we in a position to talk about data? I cannot use most unless I have enough data to support this answer. So what do? I go to 11 and I mark it as a C. Past usually doesn't have a role to play in future or hope. What about the 12th? From what the author says in the second paragraph, it appears that past has a role to play in future. You know, the author gives you examples of relationships, experience. So while we cannot say it's definitely false, we can say it's probably false, because for both probably and definitely false, we have the same option. I thought it should be made clear that question 12, while we are marking D, but we feel it is probably false, because the author is hinting at a scenario where past also plays a role in our lives. So 12th will be D. Right? So let's quickly check if you've got all these answers. 7, D, 8A, 9D, 10A, 11C, and 12D. So 7 to 12, what has been your attempt like? That's very nice. A 6 on 6. Khushi, so I have some hearts for you. And 5 on 6 is also, and Mudit as well. That's very, very nice. All those who have a 6 on 6. 4 and 5 and all are also good attempts. You will definitely go to 6 in no time. Great. So as long as you are able to spot the words and quickly go back and check and reread, I think you can ace degree of truth and falsity. I'm quite confident because all of you are good readers now. You are habitually reading, you are constantly solving papers. So all you have to do is brush up a few more of these tests and you will be good with this question type. Right? This question type is there on your MyZone as well, lots and lots of questions. So you can quickly redo those. And based on your responses, your chat box inputs, I have already scheduled classes. You will find it in your timetable next week for strong and weak argument. For our own students, we had a session on poetic devices worksheet. So I'm going to take that also very quickly. And a last minute study planner session for Clat and AILET. Right? Yes, I have to revive book buff. I will definitely try to look for a next book buff session. Hopefully, again, from June until October, we will go through a lot of book buff sessions. Why can't 10th be B? Talking without pause or hesitation might be a way to hide pain. It's a might session, might thing, no? Shivani. So it is a way to hide pain. Answer is B. It might be a way to hide pain is clearly given in the passage. Hence answer is A. So because of the word might, my answer changes from B to A. I hope that you understand that. So I can see Nikhil is in the session, and please give us a thumbs up if you want more such informative classes. Hi, Nikhil. I think that you are up next or something, is it? So I'm going to clear the stage for you, and please do give a thumbs up, and that will help us understand whether you want some more of these sessions. In fact, some of you did say the sessions you needed alongside. So I will be scheduling those sessions, and I'll be seeing you very soon next week. Have a great evening ahead, guys. See you.